We can't talk about Dubai billionaires without mentioning the royal family, specifically the Crown Prince. More publicly known by his pen name Fazza than his birth name, he's got a reputation for his love of animals and for having a vast fortune. His net worth, while always large, grows and fluctuates with his spending enough that it's too difficult to officially pin down. However, his billions are said to be somewhere in the 11-figure range. Knowing that, spending about $2.7 million to purchase the prettiest camel he could find feels totally understandable. After the royal family threw a camel beauty pageant for $4.5 million with 17,000 contestants, the winner earned her original owner $660,000 in prize money alone. Meaning that while he walked away one camel lighter, he left with just over $3,360,000. So not only did this long-lashed beauty win the heart of Dubai's Prince Charming, she also won the title of being the most expensive camel ever. But have you ever really looked at a camel? They're adorable, so you really can't blame Fazza. He already had a whole happy herd of them that would even come when he called, so you just know this camel is now living a life fit for royalty. So if Fazza can afford to drop a couple mil on one single camel, it may not be too surprising that he'd be interested in a whole falconry. And let me tell you, this is not your grandma's budgie farm. After expert falconer Bryn Close made a name for himself and his birds in the falcon racing world, Fazza made him an offer that he eventually just couldn't refuse. Having initially turned down the prince's $15 million offer, he eventually came around to it and the pair were able to make a deal. Close still owns and runs his bird raising and training business, but for an undisclosed amount, Fazza is now the proud title holder of the majestic racing birds. And his falcons can do more than just race, they're also amazing hunters and even camera operators. Falconry is an important and iconic regional tradition, and Fazza's doing a great job of maintaining and preserving the cultural pastime in younger Emiratis. The stunning pictures on his Instagram alone have gotta make them worth the investment. Speaking of racing, Fazza and his family are no strangers to the horse race tracks. Many a wealthy person can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on horses and their necessary upkeep. Fazza is not too different there, known for being quite the accomplished equestrian and spending millions on the many animals he competes with. But what's perhaps the wildest is the supposed $166,000 total spent on racing silks alone, aka the outfits that the racing jockeys wear. His family has a long and strong equestrian history, so he's got a bit of a grand reputation to maintain. Most likely custom-made, that price tag probably doesn't even register for His Royal Highness after spending money like $3 million alone on one young colt. But you have to admit that is a lot of money to spend on shiny shirts that are absolutely going to get sweaty. But if all these animals aren't for you, maybe you'd be interested in a different kind of horsepower. When you're the Crown Prince of Dubai, top-notch cars are a dime a dozen, so standard they're almost boring. While of course Fazza has a garage full of drool-worthy luxury cars, he also has a whole fleet of personal tanks. Yes, you heard correctly, tanks. Ripshot tanks are impressive pieces of hardcore machinery with upwards of 1,500 horsepower and the ability to reach speeds up to 60 miles per hour. And they've sold several to not just Fazza, but also the United States Army. With the starting rate at $500,000 a tank, it's not known exactly how much Fazza spent on these bad boys, as that $500,000 price tag doesn't include the cost of any add-ons or customization. And remember, if he was willing to spend what I'd consider a down payment for a house on a jockey's uniform, just imagine how fancy these expensive tanks are looking. While it's also not exactly known what he does with them, it's probably a lot of fun. But knowing his adventurous spirit and clear enjoyment of racing, you know they'd be great to tear around the desert sands in. Or if you're not a fan of sand, or well, land for that matter, would a water car be more your speed? And no, I didn't just forget the word for boat. We're talking about an actually amphibious vehicle. Water Car, the Californian automaker, has been working on for some time now, well, water cars, and came out with a vehicle called the Python, a sporty little number that can go over 80 miles per hour on land and roughly 45 miles per hour on water. The man has multiple tanks. Of course, Fazza has to have a few of these, so he bought several for him and his friends and family to play around around with each one costing about $150,000 to $170,000. He stimulated the American economy with this purchase just shy of $1 million at $800,000 all in. Considering all of the incredibly cool man-made islands to explore in the country, having a vehicle smaller than a tank but still versatile honestly seems like a necessary investment. But it's not just Fazaa making money move or who has a passion for unconventional modes of transportation. Sheikh Hamad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan, otherwise known as the Rainbow Sheikh, we'll come back to that later, has a large enough car collection to open a whole museum. And so he did. The Emirates National Auto Museum is his car collection. It includes a giant Willys World War II Jeep, and well, if you thought Jeeps were all-terrain, what about a car in the shape of the Earth? Does that count? This mobile global home is not only massive at 1/1,000,000th the size of the actual Earth, but is filled with amenities including a kitchen, bathroom, and even several bedrooms. While it's been known to make the odd journey across the desert, it and the rest of the collection are no mirage, and the museum is free to enter. But the richest, why is he called the Rainbow Sheikh? That delightful nickname is because of his Rainbow Day of the Week car collection. It takes away the stress of having to choose which expensive car to drive each day with one red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet Mercedes-Benz 500 SEL designated for each day of the week. So car customization is clearly a big thing in Dubai, and that holds true all the way down to license plates. Single-digit license plates are a symbol of their owner's status, and given that there are only 9, obviously scarce. One Dubai property developer, Balvinder Sahani, bought license plate number 9 for $6.7 million, and plate number 5 more recently for a total of $9 million. Now that's a lot of money to drop on a license plate, but they're for 2 of his 6 Rolls Royces. Important to note, the United Arab Emirates doesn't have income tax, so those with this extreme wealth find other ways to give back to their communities. These license plates often being one way to raise funds and give money to good causes like building hospitals and public infrastructure. While those 2 license plates were purchased at government auction, the license plate trade is becoming such a thing that a whole secondary market for vanity plates is gaining momentum, where online buyers can keep tabs on what's for sale and where. And these plates can cause quite the stir when spotted in the wild, with people stopping to take pictures with them and talk to Mr. Sakhani. And speaking of successful property developers, why not pool your money and build an entire water park? A joint venture between Kresner International Holdings and Istamar, they built the incredible Aquaventure water park for at least $1.5 billion. Despite being a desert country, the United Arab Emirates seem to really know their way around water. The park sits on the famous Palm Jumeirah Islands just off of the coast of Dubai, with 700 meters of gorgeous beaches, beautiful lazy rivers, award-winning restaurants, and even a zip line through the park. There is something for everyone. They even have an underwater aquarium with sharks and stingrays. Then suddenly a camel doesn't seem so bad. Or if you're not afraid of heights, speed, or, well, water, visitors can experience the thrill of a 9-story giant water slide or be launched many kilometers an hour in a capsule ride called Poseidon's Revenge. But if you don't feel totally safe and secure at the concept of a Greek god's revenge, maybe you're more like Dubai YouTuber Rashid Belhassa and would benefit from the added protection of purchasing a custom mouthguard for $50,000. While the majority of Belhassa's wealth may come from his father, who has an estimated net worth between $2.1 and $4 billion, this young big spender has made a name for himself online in the streaming and YouTube community as Money Kicks. With millions of followers watching to see how he spends his money, his own net worth at the time of writing is estimated to be around the $3 billion range. So when he participated in a social media boxing tournament featuring YouTubers against TikTokers, teaming up with Prochuck's founder Clement Auberger to create a customized mouthguard seemed only fitting. Prochuck's is known for their luxurious take on mouthguards, with prices beginning from the tens of thousands, but Belhassa's masterpiece of a mouthpiece not only protected his pearly whites, it was 18-karat gold and made with South African diamonds. Compared to some of the other items in this video, $50K sounds like a steal. On the topic of self-care, how about a purchase that makes a lot of sense? Yes, you guessed it, of course I'm talking about perfume. Specifically Belhassa's 2019 purchase of Shamook, the spirit of Dubai, for $1.3 million. The intricate design of the bottle is made with 3,571 diamonds, 18-karat gold, pearls, silver, and topaz, and holds 3 liters of the scented liquid, meaning Belhassa is probably going to be smelling good for life.